Do you dream of writing a novel? When you feel the urgency to write a novel, you aren't making it up. When that urgency won't let go, there's a reason. Turn your readers into raving fans. Reveal the power of your voice and your story. Writing is an act of courage, and you have what it takes. How to Write a Novel That Sells by Lana McAra will take you across the finish line. Visit howtowriteanovelthatsells.net and take that powerful next step now.
Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana McAra, where you will discover tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Here you'll find new energy, new perspectives, new resources, and new ideas that will spark your creativity into a blaze of brilliance. It's easier than you think. Be sure you visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, get out your notebook, tune in, and let's get started.
How long has it been since you wrote a letter and put it in the mail? How long has it been since you received a letter through the mail? That's what we're going to talk about today. My name is Lana McAra, and welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast, tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Today, I am so excited to welcome to the podcast Amy Weinland Daughters, award-winning author and keynote speaker. She believes in a world where what makes us different is the very thing that connects us instead of separates us. She brings that world to life by helping people reconnect to each other through the power of handwritten letters. She brings her wit, humor, and having written 580 handwritten letters to every single one of her Facebook friends, my gosh, to show you how you can find deep connection in some of the most unexpected places. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much, Lana. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited for our conversation because I'm currently working on a novel that has got a certain kind of letter in it. So we're going to get there. But first of all, tell me, how did you start this?
Well, it's a great story, and I'd like to start it by saying I was minding my own business. I had just written my first book, which is fiction, and I'm a freelance writer, so I was just doing my thing as normal. And it was 2014, and I got on Facebook very innocently, like we all do, typed in an old friend's name that I had worked with at a summer camp in 1986, who I'd had no contact with for 30-something years. I just remembered her, typed her name in, and there she was. So I friend requested her. She accepted, since it meant nothing, like there was no real exchange of anything. It seemed very, it was very safe, like nothing was going to happen. And so this was a girl that I spent probably 6 weeks with, and we both have huge personalities. We're loud. So I think we connected over that. But as far as like lucid memories, there weren't a bunch. So I did what we all do when we friend a new friend, in quotation marks. I went and looked at her profile and spent a few delightful moments doing the stalking of, let me see what happened to you for the last 35 years. And my immediate takeaway is she had overachieved in children. She had 5 kids. And she had one boy, and he was the youngest. There was 4 daughters and the younger son. His name was Parker. And right away, I found out he had cancer. And I mean, that's horrible as a mom, as a person, as a human being, as a woman. I immediately became involved in this story. And since I knew the woman 35 years ago, and he was at St. Jude in Memphis, Tennessee. And so that meant that likely it was serious. So I start following along in the background. I don't like or comment on anything. She asked for people to pray. So I did some of that because that's something that I like to do. And then I just followed along with these people's story. I had no interaction with her at all. And then I followed along. He went into remission, went back home, kind of went on the back burner of my consciousness. And at the end of 2015, he got sick again. And the cancer came back, and they went back to Memphis. And so I go to my desk one morning to do my freelance writing schedule. And it was literally, Lana, like a bolt of lightning hit me. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start writing Dana, that was her name, and Parker, the son, supportive letters. And I hadn't written anyone a letter in 25 years. I mean, I grew up writing like letters like a lot of us have. We have that part of our history, but I wasn't the letter writing girl. I wasn't going on a mission. I just thought I just became kind of over involved in the story and was like, I'm going to do something. And so that very week, I started writing the two of them every single week. And I sent these letters to the Ronald McDonald House in Memphis. And so I do this for 8 to 10 weeks. And then unthinkably, and there's no good words for it, Parker passes away at age 15. So it's terrible. And I knew Lana had nothing to do with me, but I like to tell the story at different levels of me behaving irrationally because I know I was. And so I sent the condolence card and I was like, well, what do I do? It was like a mini lightning bolt. I was like, you know what? I'm going to just keep sending the letters because I felt connected to the story. And I couldn't have stopped myself, I think, even if I wanted to. So I did the next irrational thing and I found her husband's work address and I just started sending the letters there in their hometown. And I had known him at camp too. And so 4 months later, and if I didn't say that every week, I thought it was ridiculous what I was doing. She'd lost her son. I was sending letters. I mean, they were nice letters. They were supportive, all the rest of it. I go out to my mailbox and there's a 10-page letter from this woman. She wrote me back, talked about her grief, talked about her family. And this kicks off 2 years of us communicating exclusively through the new email, through the US mail. We didn't text, we didn't email. And it created this intimate relationship with basically a stranger where we trusted each other implicitly. And it was beautiful because I wrote her not knowing when or if she ever read the letter. She wrote me back. And there was this vacuum between us where we trusted each other, could say anything. And really one of the most beautiful elements of this very tight-knit relationship was I had no idea how she voted or what she thought about social issues, what her economic level was. I knew she probably believed in God because she asked people to pray on the internet, but I didn't know specifically, was she Methodist, was she Catholic? And you know what? Who cared about any of that? Because all I knew is I cared about this poor woman who lost her son. And I'm looking at my life from the outside in, writing these letters, learning so much about myself and my own life and learning about her. And so I was like, I sat back, I was like, if this can happen with this one random girl from 1986, like what else, what other untapped goodness is out there? So I went really bananagrams and I typed out all my Facebook friends' names and shoved them into a box. And I bought stationery and I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write everyone and I'm going to journal it. Now, let me just tell you, I did not mean to go on a meaningful journey. I didn't really think I was going to finish ever because I thought it was crazy, but it turned out that after about, I don't know how many letters I was in, I was like, wait a second, this is the most powerful thing I'm ever going to do in my life. I didn't mean to write a book about it, but I did because it's such a story of hope and the power that we have for 73 cents in about 15 minutes of our time to absolutely rock someone's world and change their heart with the simple act of writing a letter. And so that's the background story of how I became the letter writing girl.
Wow, what a story. That just kind of brought me back here for a second, because I grew up in the era when there was no email. I wrote letters when I was in college. I wrote letters to my mother. I wrote letters to my fiance's mother. She said to me, please write me letters sometime because he doesn't write and I don't know what's happening. If he's healthy, if he's sick, I have no idea. So I wrote both mothers' letters and that was one of the ways. And then we went overseas and then my whole life was letters because all my friends were back home. So, yeah. Last year, and one of the reasons why I invited you on today is because last year, around the middle of the year, I got this hit that I should write each of my children a paper letter on their birthday. And it just was like a download. It was just, I don't know why, but I went and I got some nice stationery. I only write front and back and just wish them well and tell them how proud I am of them and send them a letter on their birthday. And so when your book and what you do came across my desk, I was like, whoa, this is interesting. We need to have a conversation. Yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about letters relating to stories because we talk about fiction here. So do you have any ideas about letters and the value in story?
Oh, absolutely. I think, letters could be used as a tool, in a story, in a narrative story, and really it speaks to more of the relationship through in writing that I had with Dana than the 580 letters. But that whole analysis I gave you of our in writing relationship, where it creates this free space where you can say whatever you want to because it's non-intrusive. I don't know when you're reading. That could be used as a tool in a story, to enhance a relationship. And of course, if it's a story that you're writing, a fictional story that you're writing, a period piece from any time period, but then it fits. But you could even use it in a modern story and play on that. You have your own play on how that could fit into a relationship. And it also is a great tool to show how people, another layer of how people feel or interact with each other that wouldn't be, you wouldn't play that with dialogue. I mean, it's a whole nother level of like consciousness in a story that could be used. It makes me think of, I don't know if you've read the book 84 Charing Cross, but that's a pen pal book. It's a true story, but it's written in letters. But it shows, I mean, it just shows a different dynamic of a relationship. And it could be used so creatively, in a story where there was a period where they had to write letters, or they just decided to write. There's a thousand ways you could approach that.
Yes, yes. A lost letter that's found, or there's so many things and so many romances that actually develop through letter writing. And I'm thinking right now about prisoners, pen
Right.
pals of prisoners, where they don't have access to the internet.
Right.
So,
And the love
yeah.
angle is great because, there are a lot of pen pal romance books. Because when I wrote my book, when you're doing comps, like comparative titles, a lot of the stuff that came back was, there's not a lot of nonfiction letter writing books. So it was rare. There's like 5 or 6, but definitely romance, because it's back to that intimate relationship. There's such an intimacy in writing, and that can be played where the people don't meet till the end. It's almost like, like one of the internet, I think of like Bumble. There's another one though, the one that everybody goes to for online dating, but you could use that in writing, and do like a romance that they don't see each other at the end. I mean, that's a story that everyone, because you build that story arc through that too.
Mm, right, right. I was thinking also about, and I'm going to share my screen here. There was oh, okay. There was a movie about this magic desk, and I'm pulling it up here. Just bear with me a moment. This magic desk. This guy bought this desk, and he found a secret compartment in it, and it had a letter in it. And so, first, I don't remember how it went that he would write a letter and stick it back in the desk, but he did. And it would transport through time back to the Civil War days. And this woman would open the desk, and there would be his letter. And they fell in love through this letter writing process over time. And I don't know why, but this captivated me. I've watched it 3 or 4 times. The fact that letters revealed their heart to each other. And he was in a relationship with someone, and he could not talk to that woman the way he was opening his heart to the girl in the past. And somehow they found each other in some convoluted way. Had to kind of stretch reality a little bit to make that work, but yeah,
No, I think
there's something different about it.
No, there is. And I think what you just said, that he found he could open up to her in a way that he couldn't open up to the woman he was with. I mean, again, my story speaks to that, is because we were saying stuff, Dana and I were saying stuff, and of course, this is not in a romantic, but it's still a human relationship. We were opening up. We would say things like, I haven't ever told anybody this, but I know I could trust you. But we're saying that to someone, like they're saying it to each other across time. We're saying each other, even though we didn't really know who each other were, but because of this exchange. And I really believe Dana and I, we're best friends now, but I believe we understand each other on a level that were not understood by anyone else in our life because of these letters, because we wrote for 2 years and we still write. We understand each other on a level that no one else understands us. And that could be so well played in a fictional setting, though. Like you said, you could be super creative. The letter could come 25 years late to your mailbox, stuck somewhere, the vehicle, the desk is great. There could be something found in an attic. I mean, there's just a million creative ways you can approach that.
Right, right. An unposted letter that was then dropped in the mail years later. Yeah, that's cool. I kind of like that idea.
Me too.
Yeah. One of the things that we do here on the Fiction Writers Podcast is we talk about ideas and how to bring forward different ideas. I belong to this service here, and twice a month you get a letter.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And these are they're in a series, and it is a story. When I first subscribed to this, it was because I was curious about how they did it, because I wasn't sure what that would be. But it is actual letters from people in the story, one to another, and it unfolds the story as you read it. And an epistolary novel is a novel that is all letters. And so that is in a book, right? And this is like an epistolary novel, but you get it in the mail. And that's such an like mind-blowing concept to me. I actually subscribed just so I can see what they were doing. And it has blown me away, the potential for that. Now, as fiction writers, we could actually offer something. If you'd like to get a letter from so-and-so character, fill out your email address and your mailing address, and you'll get a letter from them. Or a copy of the letter that's in the book. You can read the letter that he wrote her, because it's not all here in the book. But if you want to read it, here's a place to go and get it. And of course, we all know that we are collecting information, so we can send them other things, when we do that. But it's difficult to do that with fiction. You have to come up with a creative way to make that work. So let's talk a little bit about circle letters from the past. I think most people don't really understand what a circle letter is. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of it, but I think you've got the it sounds like you've got the reins on that. So yeah.
Okay. When I was a little girl, my grandmother was Amish. They did not have telephones even. And so she belonged to a circle letter that was from her family. Now there was 8 kids in the family. And so they would have this sequence, and everyone knew who to send the letter to next. So they would receive the letter, and it was a fat pack of mail. I mean, it was a business envelope. And everybody would put in a letter. When they got the envelope, they would take out their old letter, put in the new letter, and read them all, and then put them back in the envelope and post to the next person on the list. And that's how they stayed in touch. So that was the old time Facebook, or
right. That's what it was.
Email, text, family text stream, that we were on now. And she was so excited when the circle letter came. I can remember her just tearing it open and finding out all the news. And so I had that idea for the book I'm working on, because a mystery. What if someone was putting a code in their letter, and only the person on the other end who knew the code would really understand the secret message that was happening? So a circle letter is an interesting idea, because there's a lot of potential for what could come out of it, good and not so good, because I'm a mystery writer. I've got that devious bent. Yeah.
Right. No, that's incredible. And then then you've got a cast of characters too in the circle. Automatically there's this cast of, circle. But I love the transparency of it too, that you're going to mail everyone else's stuff to everyone. You think about that, because now we all have side texts, like the safe space where certain people in the family aren't included. But to include that, it's like a newspaper too, on top of everything else. It's just fascinating. But that again could be used as just a sidebar, like you're doing, where it's either the main part or a sidebar to a great story,
Yes. And this is a series, and it's book number 6 in the series. So I actually included some of the previous book characters in the circle letter.
Oh, that's great.
They don't live nearby, but they are family. I made them family.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so they get the letter, and it keeps the reader like in touch with the old characters of
Right.
what they're doing. Yeah.
Right. And the readers who've read the previous series are going to really enjoy that. I think the idea that you brought up of a fictional character having an offer where a fictional character will write you a letter is absolutely fascinating. I think that is, I mean, to make that offer, to really think about what that would mean to a reader, because as writers, we're readers too, but to receive a letter, even if the author who's doing that, it's pretty much a form letter, saying, but I mean, if you had that on hand to offer somebody, that is a fascinating and very meaningful, but again, back to my story of letter writing, it's not a huge investment. You're sending a letter and it's 73 cents to post the letter. So it's a marketing, well, it's two-sided. I mean, it's a very meaningful thing you could send a reader, but it's even more so from the character than the author, I think. What do you think about that? To receive a letter from a character, a beloved character than an author. I think it's a great tool.
Oh, that would be such a great way to collect email and mailing addresses.
Right.
To do that. When I was in my first iteration, because I had an early career and then I had a 10-year gap, and now I have my later career, divorce and a lot of stuff happened in those 10 years. So in the old days, I would have a mailing list, which was a print mailing list.
Right.
And I had 1,500 people on that list. And once a year, I would print off 1,500 newsletters, and stuff the envelopes. Of course, I had a lot of kids and they were helping me, but I had to go and buy rolls of stamps, and we sat and stamped, all those letters. But that was the most profitable enterprise I did the entire year. I made more money selling books from my newsletter than I did from royalties by far. And that personal touch of receiving that envelope in the mailbox once a year from me meant a lot to so many people. And the orders would just roll in, and people would do their entire Christmas list with books. So it was a good thing back in the day. And I thought, if it were possible to somehow get people to give you their mailing address so you could do that, stay in touch, nice, sweet letter with some pictures, that would be a great thing to do. So I've been have my thinking cap on for a few months now.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, based on my experience, there's a reason for that, because people feel like in our electronic age, and this is one of the major takeaways from my experience, is that as soon as you go to your mailbox, and let's say you sent me a letter after this podcast, I would immediately understand, let's say I didn't talk about letter writing, because that kind of sets it up, but I would immediately realize that you took the time and effort, like that took special, you could have emailed me and said, thank you, or you're welcome, or whatever. But for you to sit down in whether you written anything handwritten or not, let's just say you said, thanks, Amy, on the newsletter or whatever you put in there, I would immediately think, oh my God, she had to sit down and stuff that envelope, find my address, write it. Then she had to put a stamp on it. And she had to drive across town, and where are the blue mailboxes anymore? And all of a sudden, that is going to be so meaningful to me that it is I speak about letter writing all the time, but it's at the beginning, I just spoke about what it meant individually between, two friends. But now I speak to women's business conferences, to real estate groups, because it's a tool where anywhere where there's a human relationship, it is a tool to have impact, to have incredible meaning, but also, real estate referrals and employee engagement and retention. It is a tool where any two humans relate that is so meaningful. It's almost so simple that it's hiding there for all of us as a tool.
Yes, yes. I have been astounded at how much the old ways are so meaningful. And I think we've really been sold a bill of goods to say it's faster, better, cheaper, doesn't hurt the environment by killing trees. I mean, all these things that they say to us to keep us from doing what we had a lot of heartwarming, uplifting experiences that we had by the simple act of sitting down and writing a page and putting it in an envelope and sending it to someone.
Right. And if you really want to know the power of it, look at all the businesses, and that's what we are as authors. We're small business people, but look at all the businesses that send you mail that they want it to look handwritten. So they're buying software and hardware. They're employing technology to do what you have the power to do with your own hand. Think about that for a second. And that's how powerful it is when major corporations are willing to invest in the idea that you and I are talking about, from as business people and as creative people. I mean, it's so universal. And I was just a girl who wrote a bunch of letters. I had no idea how powerful this was and how many arenas. And this is the first time I've talked about it on a fiction podcast, and I'm absolutely thrilled. So thank you for being open-minded, because this gives me another avenue to talk about. And that's due to your insight and your, really you looking outside the box, which is a real credit to you and to your listeners benefit from that too. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here. This is fascinating to me. So if you think about the fact that a paper letter is like an artifact, it's an item, the impact that could happen when people find old letters and they share them, and people who are gone or people who are old and maybe, they aren't mentally able to communicate anymore, to find those letters and read them and have the insights into that person that you would have never had before. It's so meaningful. It's so meaningful. So we are creating history.
No, we are. Well, and then your children, what you spoke of and writing the birthday letters, I guarantee you they're going to save those, for the rest of their life. And it's like the letters we have from our grandparents and the letters you talked about writing in college. I mean, it's a gift we can give someone almost with nothing but time and effort. That's all that's really, it's a lot like writing itself, the payoff is not on the front end for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But it is a gift that keeps on giving for sure. Well, tell us about your book. I'm interested in your book.
Oh, Dear Dana. Well, the title is Dear Dana. That time I went crazy and wrote all 580 of my Facebook friends a handwritten letter, which is also the longest subtitle, I think, in publishing history. And I was afraid through the whole process that they were gonna snip it, because I really figured they would. I don't know how it made it to the end, but it did. But the book basically starts with the story of Dana and I. And it has some of those exchanges, some of her Facebook posts, some of our words back and forth. And so it tells the story of Parker, and it tells the story of me saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to be really crazy and write all these letters. And then the second half of the book takes 52 of the letters, and it doesn't do all of the letters. It's a snippet, and then a snippet of the reply. And it's basically 52 takeaways that I learned from writing the letters. So it's an easy read. And it's inspiring. I will say that, even as the person who wrote it. And it's basically just a great story of a great journey that I took. But I love it because it actually won an award for like an anthology kind of, because it was, and that was the award I was probably the most proud of, because it was a bunch of different voices. The book is not just my voice. I'm obviously the main character, but the book is a book of letters. It is what it is. And it's other people's voices. It's their take on social media. It's where they're at in their lives. And so it's really fascinating, because it's like 54 voices. It's me and Dana and these 52 incredible individuals who I'm connected to.
Wow, how great. Well, we're going to put that in the show notes.
Thank you.
So, if you are listening on YouTube, and I highly encourage YouTube, because it helps me if you subscribe to YouTube in particular, but whatever platform you are on, go to the show notes and take a look at this, because this is unique and it's life enriching, and it can also take your fiction to the next level for sure. Dana, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And thank you for being with us today. See you next time.
Thank you for tuning into the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana McAra, where we share tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Remember to visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Fiction Writers Podcast.